Welcome to Massive Beers. My name's Matt. We do the beer stuff here, and very excited for today's beer. I've had it before, had it many times. Thought I reviewed it. Apparently I haven't. La Vermontoise. This is a collaboration between Blaugies and Farmstead. Where do I begin? I had this beer a couple times. It was available off the shelf in Pennsylvania at a couple places before I moved down here to New Jersey. And I'll start uncorking it and all whole fun stuff, and we'll read about it. Anyway, so I had it, and I really, really did enjoy it. And then, I was just like, I didn't know much about Blaugies, and I figured, screw it, let me try to find other stuff. And I really enjoyed their beers. I think the one beer I reviewed from them might be the De Bartiste, maybe? Anyway. So, fast forward, I'm living, skunk in a good way. I moved down here to New Jersey, and right before the pandemic, 2019, I believe, I ended up going to Farmstead's Festival of Farmhouse Sales. That's why I'm using this glass. I figured it's kind of apt, makes sense to use this glass for the review, because Blaugies was there. And there was a bunch of, big breweries there. Blaugies is very, very small. But, they have a history with Sean, him going over there, kind of learning how to make Saison and whatnot. Look at how aggressively crazy that beer is. I'm going to leave it there so you can watch while I talk. Anywho, and, Russian River's there, Lost Abbey's there, but then you have Dre Fontaine, you have, like, a bunch of like, bigger breweries that people are really, really, kind of just crazy about. They were one of the stars of the show for me for a couple different reasons. One, their lines were never that long, but their beers are also really, really, really good. So, come back here, and I just can't find the beer anymore. So I was like, whatever. But lo and behold, I stopped by a place that had a single bottle sitting on the shelf. Look at how pretty that is. Just absolutely cascading out the top of that. How about I put it there? Probably a better show than what you're watching when you watch me. So I'm really excited to give it a whirl. I mean, from a distance, it's just super duper skunky funk. Super duper, just ranky danky. It's a combination of hops too, but ranky danky skunky funk from a distance, from this far away. And this is a beer from various sources. It's basically, I guess the importer was like, hey, you should do a collaboration with Farmstead. And Pierre from Blaugies is like, of course, we'll do that. And I guess it was more like, Sean was like, well, let's do, kind of like just a straight up, like, our version of Saison DuPont. And I guess the Blaugies, Pierre was like, we got to put an American twist on it. So it's basically a very hyper traditional Belgian Euro style Saison, but with American hops in it. So that when you're getting that little bit of ranky dank, it's probably what's coming through. On here it actually says, the Farmstead brewers traveled the Brasserie de Blaugies to share the kindred bond of farmhouse brewing. The result is this classic Saison were brewed with spelt an abundance of Amarillo. Okay. Hops, a true expression of noble Belgian tradition and artistic American innovation from the families at Brasserie de Blaugies in Farmstead. Label-wise, you know me and my old school labels, Belgian labels, I really do think they're some of the better ones in the game. It just looks like somebody from the brewery, and this is how I usually kind of classify or compartmentalize Belgian brewery labels. It's like, who here can kind of draw? And someone's like, I can kind of draw, and they go, draw us a label. That's kind of where it comes from, and I've always dug that. But to get into the beer, because I figured I'd let it settle down for a minute, that's not going to happen. And what we have is just an absolutely explosive, crazy amount of carbonation in this. I believe there is an agitator in this glass, so that just only intensifies that. But as you can see, I had to take a sip of the foam on this just to keep it from kind of boiling over. And it's getting to the point where it's kind of going to do that again. So as far as getting an actual nose on this beer, I mean, we've gotten one from a distance already, so it's like we're not going to be able to get something on here as far as aromatics. But we're not going to be able to dip our nose into it and huff it like it's kerosene. Or somebody the other day said, this guy must do coke. No, I'm sorry, I don't. But yeah, I mean, it just looks vibrant. It looks like super hyper crazy champagne. So let's take a little sip of the foam, and then we'll see what kind of aromatics we get. Yeah, it's that malty, spicy. I think spelty comes off a little bit spicy, kind of like rye. So there's a spicy kind of speltiness to it as far as the malt goes. There is a peppery spiciness to it too from the Saison yeast. Maybe a touch of fruit. Maybe even leaning into slightly touching bubblegummy when it comes to the way that kind of Saison kind of shows. But it's a spicy, slightly fruity with that peppery marrying with that speltiness, all wrapped around just that really meaningful and purposeful Amarillo is just coming through. It's definitely aggressive. It's definitely taught. I was actually really curious about a date on this because I actually didn't see one on the bottle. I was hoping maybe I'd get one on the cork, but I did not. I'd be really surprised if this wasn't relatively fresh. And by relatively fresh, I mean really fresh because the hops are just jumping out and very pronounced in here. It's almost like there's this bit of skunkiness going on from the green bottle from this light struck in a good way. It's meant to happen in these beers, so if that's something that you don't like or you think is a negative when it comes to these beers, maybe it's just not the kind of beer you like. But it has that combination of this little resinous rankiness in combination with a little bit of light struck on top of that fruitiness that you get from the Saison yeast, and just that spicy combination of the spelt and the yeast kind of bring that all to a head. It comes off as a really fun beer, really explosive beer. And I'm only just talking about aromatics right now. How crazy is that? I mean, I did suck a little foam in, so technically we tasted it. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. That's so good. So good. See, the thing I'm going to get not angry about, 6%. So it's not huge in ABV, but man, I want this to be like 2%. Can this be negative percent? This is what I wish water tastes like. Because it's much more vibrant than water. But it has this vibrant, I keep wanting to use the word vibrant and bright. Aggressive is the wrong word, but it kind of makes sense. It's almost like a controlled aggression when it comes from every aspect of this beer, from the carbonation, the way the hops come off, the way the yeast comes off, the way the malt kind of comes off. Everything here is very much cranked to 11, but it pulls off that super cool trick of it's like the perfect pH balance for your body. So it's very much like a lot of Hill Farmstead's farmhouse styles, the Blaugies, Suarez. We're all in the same kind of beer tree there, of it having just this perfect pH balance where it drinks so easily, drinks so organically. You just have that speltiness which comes off as a purposeful, meaningful malt, but at the same time has a spiciness, but doesn't get heavy-handed, doesn't get out of control. You lean into the yeast, same thing. You get that little bit of peppery spiciness, you have a little bit maybe fruity bubblegummy thing going on in there, a little bit of funkiness, but again, nothing gets heavy-handed here. Hops, same thing, ranky-dank, a little spiciness, a bit of green in there, but again, nothing gets heavy-handed when you throw that dollop of that light struck on there. It just ends up being almost the perfect collaboration of a really well done, it's not the way I want to phrase it, of a collaboration between a seminal, old school Belgian Saison brewer and a really fantastic American-based Saison brewer. And you can taste the collaboration here. A lot of times these collaborations tend to be one-sided. This comes from the Blaugies end of things, so it tends, more often than not, when breweries brew that side of the collab, it tends to be more them. This feels like equal parts Hill Farmstead and Blaugies in a very tasty way, in a very beautiful way. Man, this is good. My little cork things. I should probably be throwing a cork in this sucker. There's one right there. Anyway, man, this is fantastic. Finishes dry. It's very much leaning into that kind of champagne-like kind of vibes for a Saison. Everything here is so, again, I keep leaning into just aggressively balanced, aggressively surgical from everything about it. You taste every bit and piece of the ingredients that go into this beer, but nothing. But it all tastes like one cohesive thing at the same time. It's not just individual pieces, but at the same time, it's just I will drink that all day long. Yeah. What else do we want to say? It seems like it gets a micron sweeter as you drink it. Fine by me, with that amount of spiciness, rank-dank, that lake struck, and it finishes dry. That sweet, that elevation, that roller coaster ride of sweetness is fine by me. It retains aggressiveness throughout. It's aggressive, controlled aggressiveness. The more you drink it, and it just keeps on. Very tasty beer. Very fantastically tasty beer. I want to do a couple beer reviews tonight. Now I just want to drink this thing for an hour and just sit here and kind of marvel at it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic beer. And probably one of the best, if not the best, Saison I've had in quite some time. Nothing else to say. Great beer. Showcasing every inch of it. Yeast, speltiness, hops, the whole nine. Is this one of the better Saisons I've had? Absolutely, yes. Mount Rushmore status? Absolutely. Valued availability. I picked it up off the shelf 30 minutes from where I live, and I live 30 minutes away from everything. Now, I'm lucky enough that place that's 30 minutes away is an importer of stuff like this. But I got it for $10 off the shelf. All day. All goddamn day. And leave you with, if you like, we like this. If you like Saison, you like Hill Farmstead, you like Blaugies, obviously that's kind of two on the nose. You like spell, I don't know, if you like controlled aggressiveness in your, I don't want to say more gentler beers, but more refined beers, I think you would dig this. I really do. Hill Farmstead, have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? What do you think? Blaugies, have you been to their brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this particular beer? Have you had it over the years? How has it treated you? All that fun stuff down there. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a beautiful beer right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers, all.